And so then when I came in there the third time, he said, brother, what's your name? You know what I mean? And I told him, Brother Morgan, and he said, listen, he said, you know what I'm doing? And I was like, I know you're sitting in the chair, you know. And he was said, actually, I work for hospice. You know, I'm here with that. And that was one of the closest things to the nursing besides working in the RMU, you know. And so from then and there, you know, and I did that for 10 years with a brother. He pulled me in, you know, and then connecting with Reverend Lewis, another profound gentleman,
yes, sir.
You know, and doing the clergy work. And that's what kind of helped me make it through, you know, in the face of the people. Now, when you go back to that closet, you know, and they slam that door, that's when you bury your face.
So what was it about those choices because prison is just like any place else. You know, you have the good, bad, and the ugly. It's the choices that we make when we are faced with the three. What made you say, well, I'm going to pursue this as opposed to going out in the yard, smoking weed, you know, stealing, robbing? You could have did a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah, you know,
because that I just want to throw it out there. I think I have the answer, but I just want to throw it out there because this program is about people thinking and identifying with each other.
Well, I knew in prison there's the alternative to the alternative. You know, and that is, and I don't know if no one has to agree with me. This is just my take on it. You can die real easy in prison and be forgotten about real easy. Not only do you have to worry about the person who you're doing time with, but you have to worry about some of the officers as well. Right. You know?
That's a fact.
And they have the ability to have you disappear if you want to be hard-headed. If you think you're really tough, they can show you just what tough can be. You know? And there's some men in there who, if you think you're really tough, they can show you what tough can be. So that's the alternative to the alternative. You know? And so being a man that has some kind of intellect and some kind of hope, you know, I didn't let hope die, Brother Ernest. That's the thing in me, because I was broken and shattered, but God was there with me, and a lot of it happened unknowingly. I just did it. You know, it was almost reflex. You know, now it's a muscle memory. You know?
Yes, sir.
You know, and so now the muscle memory is saying, okay, this is what you have to do now. You got to get up. You know, brush your knees off, man. You know, if you don't, you about to drown. You know, what are you going to do? You know, and so these are most of the reasons that I took. You know, I took to heart.
So one thing I know about you is that you participated in various programs. Why was that? Explain that.
I was looking to learn more about me and my abilities, because in prison you're faced with yourself. When you go into that cell, it's just you. You know, nobody else is up in there. And if you start talking to people, they want to give you medication. You know?
Yeah. Put you on the heavy regimen.
Yeah, you know. Oh, and I wasn't trying to go through all that.
Be a zombie.
Yeah, I was definitely not trying to go through that. You know, so then you're faced with yourself and you're asking yourself, you know, I mean, these questions, and they may be profound, you know, at the time, but now I can reflect and say they are necessary. Those are the necessary questions that you face yourself and you start acting upon it. You know what I mean? And so that's what I did.
So can you kind of explain what different programs did for you, what you learned from them, if anything?
The first program that I entered into was the hospice program. And that was dealing with the men who were close or at least 6 months to the end of their life. You know, and you're being a companion with them. Sometimes you're just sitting there. And one of the things that happens with that was I lost of two very important people while I was inside. My father's mother, my grandma, and my mother's father, you know, Papa. And when doing the hospice, Reverend Lewis was the chaplain. And so we had to write our own obituary, you know, to start off with that. And that was deep, you know. And so there was a phrase that was spoken on where no matter who you are, no one dies alone, you know.
Yes.
And so also it's unfinished business. That maybe a person whom you're sitting with during your hospice tour could be someone you never got the chance to say goodbye to in your family, you know. And a lot of the times those men who we were with helped us out more.
So you're basically escorting these men to the end of their life cycle.
That's right.
But through a sense of companionship.
That's right.
And honoring the dignity of the person that
That's
you're dealing
right.
with. So he doesn't suffer the indignity
That's right.
of dying alone. Because what could be worse than dying alone?
Absolutely. And you know,
what did that do for you?
it made me real cognizant of life and the life I was missing. You know, I was still alive, incarcerated, but I was missing the enjoyment of life, the successes and the failures, you know, of being out there, and who knows what could have happened, but not being able to go through that because that wasn't the case. You were somewhere where you have to live in that reality, and you have to make sure that if you're determined to get to where you need to get to, you're going to have your mind set.
Are you basically saying that deepen your appreciation for life?
You know, brother, I believe life definitely was underappreciated. So much was taken for granted, you know, and me realizing that, I almost looked, it may be profound, but I was looking forward to go sitting with these men, you know, and it wasn't about, I didn't understand about giving back. I didn't understand that.
Could you give one example? And if you can't, I don't know why my mic is sounding like I'm in the tunnel. Maybe it's just the headphones. I don't know. Could you give us one example?
There we go.
If you can, if you can't, or if you would like to, of a conversation that you had with a prisoner who was getting ready to transition, something profound that he shared with you that helped you move along in your journey in your incarceration, something that you hold on to, because I think that I never transitioned with, I never helped anybody transition, but I think that that's a special thing that humans share, and many of us don't do it, but you being in that particular field, you've done it several times. So I'm just curious, was there any profound gift that one of them gave you? And it's even more special because here's somebody who is transitioning in prison.
So many of them. One of the most profound one was there was a brother who I'll never forget. It's his death face. And if you anyone's seen the movie Scream, when the long face and how the mask was, when the face was skinny and long, this brother actually developed that long mouth hanging open, skinny face, and the thrush in the mouth to where it looks webby, you know. And so his mouth is open and it looks very webby, like it's almost glue in his mouth, you know. And before he got to that state, he told me, he said, Walter, my mom's bringing me some soup. And my mom makes some of the best split pea soup. You know, for me, I'm saying my mother, she makes some of the best split pea soup I've ever had. And when he said to me that my mom is bringing me some soup, and that's all I want, is I want some soup, you know. And that's one of the hardest things to get. You can't just call your mom and tell her to come down to, you know, to your house. You know, you just can't go upstairs, or you can't just reach out and get that soup, man. There's a giant preparation that has to go down before it even gets here, and even that soup is screened before it gets in, you know. And so that brother said that to me, man, and he had to have his bed on the floor. He couldn't have it elevated, so his bed was on the floor. And his mom came, but he didn't get to eat the soup. So that stuck with me, even more of an encouragement to say, you know what, I gotta get at least a spoon of soup, you know. And my mother Don't get mad, Ma. But she had she had lupus. She has lupus. And when I got incarcerated, my mom was very active, and she got down to 100 pounds, man. And when I seen that picture that was sent to me of my mom, and seeing the effect that, what I'm having on my family, it was more of a drive, more of a drive to say, okay.
Give it an incentive. Right.
I had, there was no option. You know what I mean? There was no option. Now you can pick that tool out that belt that you was given a long time ago. You know what I mean? And if you don't, then here goes an alternative to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's interesting. So the hospice, you kind of find that you may have unwittingly cultivated, not really intending to, but cultivated this deep abiding appreciation for life.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And prison is the direct opposite, because it's a culture of decadence, and somehow the challenge of men or women in prison is a fine life in a decadent situation. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
somehow you did that. So what program did you take after that?
After that, just real quick, if I may.
Yes.
It's something, a memory that came back was when you're dealing with those men in prison that are dying, in that setting, in that hospice setting, there's so many elements, and one of the biggest elements is some of the officers. They look at you like, what are you doing, holding this guy's hand? What are you doing trying to be a companion to this guy? Do you know what this guy did? Do you know he's this, he's that? And you, as that person, this is another refining. That's got to all be X'd out. You have to clear your mind of all that.
Right.
Because he's in green and you're in green.
Right. And he's a human being dying.
And brother, that's where I'm coming to. It was that a lot of men say, well, he's in green, you in green. And we know you got this camaraderie. It was like, no, he's a human being, bro.
Right.
He's a human.
Right.
And he's dying. And maybe one day, if I'm in a situation, someone will give that much care to me.
Or my
loved ones.
Right.
You know? And that's what came across with my grandfather. He was actually given hospice. And I spoke to my sister the other day on the phone, and she told me that my grandfather called everybody by name. And she told me that he called for me too. And I never knew that. And so that was another thing that was just, so much piecemealing is coming about, And so that brings into also the other program I was in, which is the Puppies Behind Bars program, raising service dogs for Wounded War veterans, and that was profound.
Of course.
That was because they live with you, they're right under the bunk. You're getting dog hair and everything that you got.
So did you go from hospice to the puppy program, or did you do both of them simultaneously?
I did both of them simultaneously.
Wow, well, cool.
Yeah.
What a connection.
Yeah.
Can you flesh that out for us?
It was deep, because here goes another trust factor with another human being incarcerated. While you're on your tour in hospice, someone has to dog sit. And so now you have to go through your Rolodex on who's who, and entrusting another person with another life, an animal, but with another life that's charged to you. So you have your own life, the other lives outside of being incarcerated, and as well as the life whom you're going to sit with in your hospice tour. And then you got a puppy, who's like a child, looking for, the parent, but trusting that, okay, you're giving me to someone who's going to take care of me, right. Until you get back on the return. And so working the Puppies Behind Bars program was high maintenance, especially with the instructor. She's a very, very, she's a bright woman, but she means business. She means business. And I big up to her, because you know what? She brings the best out in you also. And she did also bring one of the best, the fun in you, because the downside of being incarcerated, it seems like you can't have fun. Who's going to have fun being in prison? Right. But you have to find your happiness, those things that can sustain you with all the gloom that's around you, you know. And Puppies Behind Bars was definitely one of the programs that helped maintain that.
And I understand that you participated in the Rise and Hope program as well.
And here we go. And during that time too, it was Rise and Hope. You know, see, you brothers are bringing it to my attention. Like, wow, this was it was a lot of things being done simultaneously.
Well, it was a lot of choices that you made, good choices.
Right.
You know, and that's what life is about. Before we segue into you, we talked about DuPont, who made similar choices, and he's being rewarded with clemency for it.
Look at that.
The choices that you made, I'm almost certain that you were rewarded because they helped you along when you got out.
Sure, absolutely.
Decisions, some of the networking that you made, some of the skills that you acquired. That's what makes us who we are, the choices that we make.
Absolutely. And to incorporate the brother DuPont story with the clemency was being part of the hospice program, college, and Puppies Behind Bars. Governor Cuomo offered 6 months off your sentence. Now, mind you, I was incarcerated 2005. So that didn't happen until 2009. And so being in these programs for this time, we were given a letter, came to the mail, saying, we have seen you participating in these programs, and we offer you this. You got to go through the merit board and all that. And so being part of those programs successfully, I was given 6 months off my time. And so, and unbeknown, a lot of the brothers, when they did find out, they wanted to get in the hospice and the puppy program just for that, you know, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
But I had to give him the spew to say, well, brother, when I joined, this wasn't even in existence to us. They may have been thinking about it then, but we weren't given any of this information, you know. So you can see where it's coming from, you know what I mean? It's coming from something that I want to do, you know.
So do you think that it was a combination of these programs that was, you know, we always ask what was the impetus of change for an individual, but from what you've shared with us so far, your change came the day that you had the handcuffs put on you, the shame, the decision to rebuild yourself. It just seems to me anyway that your change came immediately. And if I'm reading that wrong, let me know. But it's important for us to bring out the reasons why we change from who we were when we came in to who we became when we leave prison.
Absolutely, Brother Ernest. It did happen immediately, unbeknown. But these were the things, like I said, it was muscle memory. Something just kicked in to say, okay, now this is the step. That may have been the path that I needed to take for that refinement. And whether I wanted to take it or not, God was making me take it. And this was the way that it had to happen. During in Coxsackie, well, I think it was, there was a time, no, it was in Fishkill, that we were watching a movie. And a young brother, real young brother, man, he was always getting picked on. And so I kind of took him under the wing, you know, because that's what the brothers I hung around with took me under the wing. The brother Love, the brother Theo, brother Abdul Malik, you know, they took me under the wing and said, this is what needs to happen, brother, you know, if you want to be successful at this. So I would give this encouragement to this young brother. And it wasn't easy because everybody else was doing a whole lot of them, you know. And when you do that, I don't like that term too much. Do you? I don't like that too much. You must do what you need to do to continue to better yourself and be an example of public asset to yourself and your community instead of a liability, man. And when you know you're not a liability, you got to face that truth. Be who you are, you know. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world.
Yes, sir.
You know, and so the brother during the movie was picked on so much, brother. He He hung himself upstairs. He was upstairs, and the person who was beneath in the cell said they heard stomping. So he had took the sheet and tied himself. You know, the windows, they don't come out all the way. They just come out a little bit. Maybe what's that, a 45-degree angle maybe? And he found a way to tie the sheet up to that window and hang himself. The windows ain't that tall. They to your chest. But this brother actually had to sit down and hang himself, man. And the profound thing about it, Brother Ernest, is that the officers supposed to do their check.
Right.
You know, so not putting the blame on anybody, but it's profound. And when those things happen, and then being a nurse assistant, having to learn to save people's lives and help maintain their life, and then being in hospice, being with someone at the end of their life, being that close up to somebody who took their life, this environment is chaotic. And to maintain yourself in that chaotic environment, you have to make them choices. You know, to be part of the chaos or to try to be an influence to yourself or someone else, because you never know who's watching. Right. And then those officers and those people who are watching, they let you know, man. You know, they let you know. Brother Love, it wasn't easy. Sometimes it was a love, no pun intended, hate situation. Because he was a tough grader, man. Yeah. And you think you're writing them papers, which is the best paragraphs you could put together, and he had a whole lot of red ink on that thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I want you brothers to write well.
Yeah, but you know what? That's the build up. That's the tear down and the build up. And hence we're here now, Brother Love, respecting, and maybe he can see the fruits of his labor, you know, through me. You know, being I'm nobody's role model or success, you know, because it's every day we have to continue to be who you're supposed to be, man. And being free physically from incarceration, is only part of it.
You know what stand out for me about you? And that whenever I brought something to you that could be challenging for most people, you always you hear Ernest, you can see the very moment where he humbles himself to listen and get this. You know what I mean? You can see it's like there's a noticeable physical change in that moment where he humbles himself to get this, because I want to get this, and then to see him run with it. So it's like what you're saying. He takes very serious. He goes back to his living quarters, contemplate it, think about it before you know he's acting on it. So I saw a man who wanted to change, who wanted more, who refused to be defined by the worst choice he's made, or by the fact that he was in such a decadent and self-destructive situation, that he had took what they call the high road. He resolved to take the high road no matter what those challenges was, and he grappled with it. It was painful for him sometimes. There were setbacks. There was decisions he made that he regretted later. But before you know it, he started making more sounder decisions, and before you know it, but he walked himself right out the door with that new person in mind. You know?
Yeah.
Right out the door.
And unbeknown, you know, I'm now, I don't know if it's I know you brothers may be looking at me like this is new. I haven't been able to see my own picture. I don't know if the people that are listening, I'm just now seeing my picture.
Yeah, but you said that you're not a success story, or you're not anybody's role model, but you are.
Huh.
You everybody's role model. You probably a whole lot of people's role model. But one thing that we know for sure, that everybody who's locking in, that's bunking in those cubes, you are their role models today, and you will be their role models for a long time, because they're going to remember what you said, and what you said or what you will say today will have an effect on many of them.
It's going to resonate.
So you are a role model. You're a role model as a result of what you've been through, what you've done, and who you are now. You are a role model.
Now, you might not be trying to be a role model. That's not your aim. You're just trying to live right, a purpose-oriented life. Right. But in the process of doing that, you become a role model.
Just like you didn't do the hospice and the puppy program, but you got the letter. That's the same thing.
Sure enough.
Because what you do from your heart is going to come back tenfold.
And that's and that's something to build on with the brothers that's the brothers locked up, sisters that's locked up, the families who are going through the bid as well, going through them visits, being searched, getting the packages sent back. Oh man, and being denied to go on the floor because you got a button missing on your blouse. We got the wrong shoes on. It is with the heart, man. And I hope and I pray that no one gives up on some of the brothers. I've seen a lot of people give up on incarcerated persons, man.
Right.
Wives, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, uncles. There's a lot of loss.
But the worst thing that happens is that people give up on themselves.
Yes, and
the thing is
absolutely.
that and that's what makes you not only a role model and an example, but also a hero. Because when we go through these places called prison, they're not designed to help us. They are designed to destroy us as people, as human beings. And anybody that could come out of the other side of that gauntlet and speak as well as you do, and who has the insight that you have, is a hero. Because what you're saying is that even though I went through that, they didn't break me. They did not
right.
destroy me or my humanity.
That's absolutely right.
And that's a marvelous thing, man.
It
That's
is
a
marvelous.
thing.
It really
because
is.
there's so many people that go through the prison system and they are broken. They are broken to the point where they don't believe in themselves, and they don't believe in their humanity, and they don't believe in the humanity of society in general. And what happens is that they go back. They keep going back and forth because they've been broken. The system, they are bearing the weight of the intention of the system, which is to break people. It's not about helping. But when you come out and you're like you are, listen, man, it's nothing greater than that. It's no greater testimony than someone coming out and saying, I took care of this. I did the crime, but I took care of the thing that I needed to take care of to get me together.
It's absolutely right. And we give God the glory again on that.
That's right.
Because without doing that, it's impossible. And that word impossible, I wrote it down. See, here goes another. See the studiousness, brother. Is the word impossible? It says I am possible.
That's right.
That's
right.
And so this was something that came to mind. That's why I wrote it down, because it definitely is something that needs to be said to the brothers, that every incarcerated person, male or female, it is possible. And in that word, impossible, when someone tells you it's impossible for you to go to law library and get your case overturned, it's impossible for you to change yourself, it's impossible for you to stop the recidivism, it can be said to them that the word impossible says, I am possible.
Okay, now listen, we got about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Discourse between us. So here's a question.
Okay.
All the things that you learned in prison, now you're out in society, how has those lessons informed you and affected your life?
Oh wow! One of the things, and it's profound to me, communication. When you're incarcerated, here in America at least, or in New York State, you don't have all the electronics to communicate to each other.
Right.
Cell phones, all this other texting, all this. I'm in the house with my family. Don't y'all get mad at me. I'm in the house with my family, and my wife is texting my daughter in the next room, telling her to come in.
Wow, that's incredible.
I say, are y'all serious?
It is.
Yeah, that's the culture out here.
And it goes to show, even in those times, to where maybe I'm a dinosaur compared to that. But I believe what has helped me is that they tell me, my daughter say, Daddy, can you go talk to someone? My wife says, no, Walter, you talk. You know what I mean? And I want to bring to their attention, well, maybe if you stop texting so much and emoticon and everything, and use and use the abilities you was given in school, maybe you'll be able to have a better communication and be successful at those things. And I guess that's another thing I take for granted, but I reflect on it, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I'm still able to do those things. And also with the patients, like road rage driving. Oh my goodness, these people out here,
Yeah.
something different now, you know, and going through those things that learning, seeing those tragic events. That's another thing to me. Incarceration to me, Brother Ernest, was a tragedy. Maybe that also helped.
said.
Maybe that also helped me because it was tragic for me.
Right.
You know, maybe some people don't see it as being a tragedy.
But if they didn't, then the opposite applies.
Absolutely.
And if you don't see prison as a tragedy, then
Absolutely.
something's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and so going through those things and seeing all those, I'm gonna say the tragic trimesters of because prison is definitely a trimester. You know, those things that happen, and coming out here and seeing how angry people get, and hearing how the person got out the car and shot that person just because they cut in front of them.
Right.
You know, we could tell them stories about being cut in front of on a walkway or a child.
Or in a
You know what I
line.
mean? And you're on the child line. Somebody cut in front of you, get a bigger piece of that meatloaf. You know?
People are often
You know.
less intolerant. We live in a
Yes.
generation of people are less intolerant
Yes.
and seem to be, don't understand that we live in a community of other people. So it's not
That's
always
right.
about me. It's about me
That's
learning
right.
to make deference to other people.
That's right.
Now, how what was some of the biggest emotional social challenges you confronted with after your release?
I'm going to one of them. I'm going to say is work. To obtain the job that I had, I needed references, and I was denied at first because of my incarceration history. And sometimes once that happens, it's like
It's done. They don't talk to you no more.
that's it, you know, and that's it, you know. And so then I could have chose to try to go find a job off the books until I was able to get a job to might accept me, but I had due diligence, brother. And so I said, you know what? These things that I learned in while I was incarcerated, going to school, Rising Hope, colleges, all this stuff, put the pen to paper, brother. You know, and so I put pen to paper. And I wrote the Department of Justice and told them why I felt I was qualified for this position. And I felt how I can be an asset to the company.
Advocate for yourself.
I advocated for me because I knew no one else was going to.
Yes, sir.
You know, once again, you're faced with you.
Yes.
So
You know?
what happened with that incident?
So I sent that letter, and then they sent me a letter back saying, we received your letter, Mr. Morgan, but we need some community support. We need some people to back your statements.
Now, for those of you who are listening, and correct me if I'm outside, the Department of Justice is basically a review committee of is a body of people that review people who try to get jobs where they have a vulnerable population.
Absolutely.
And they are most used when someone applying for a job in one of these positions that's formerly incarcerated.
That's
and,
right.
And this committee is primarily comprised of people who used to be in law enforcement.
Sure, absolutely.
So it's a very imbalanced committee, and they are not very favorable to people who are formerly incarcerated. As a matter of fact, it's my understanding that this Department of Justice Review Committee was constructed specifically because there was so many formerly incarcerated people getting into the human service field.
Absolutely.
So what you did, the fact that you turned it around was amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah. And that's just how I felt when I got the letter back from them. I didn't think I'd hear anything from them again.
Right.
But they sent the letter back saying that I needed some people to...
So that was done after your fingerprints were submitted, right?
absolutely.
Yeah, because I went through the same
Yep.
thing for my first
Yep.
job. And you know what I did, man, Ernest?
What you do?
I simply submitted a copy of my parole package.
Okay. Did they ask like?
Yeah,
they-
it's,
okay,
it's a preliminary letter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying if I was warned about that in my job, that'd probably be an issue,
Mhm.
but it's not a necessarily a deal breaker.
Mhm.
I'm saying, but they will write you and ask about that, and they make the last decision before.
Wow.
We already said we already approved you. We want you,
That's right.
but they make the last decision. They can
Wow.
override the decision.
That's right.
So I just submitted one of my parole packages. I had 3 of them. You know what I'm saying? And they accepted me and they sent
Mhm.
that back.
That's
You
great.
know?
That's great.
Because they could see all
Mhm.
the people who wrote letters for me. I had like 60 letters.
Right.
The people who wrote letters for me, you know what I'm saying? So I felt that the parole package
Mhm.
speaks for
Was
itself, and I attached a
sufficient, right.
letter
Uh-huh.
saying that I think that you find that I am very supported in my reentry.
Right.
You know what I'm saying,
Absolutely.
and life out here in society. So No problem.
And-
Took about a month. I think it took about a month
Sure.
before they approved that.
And that's about 30 days.
Yeah.
And I got it back. And that was the due diligence that I used.
Yes.
I had letters and certificates from during incarceration, what I achieved. I had some support letters coming from the clergy and other, even some officers who,
Yes,
you
sir.
know, and then also from clergy out here and
Right.
people in positions of this, whoever's in the Congress, you know, and the
Congressman.
senators,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Fifth Ward aldermans, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna name throw, but these are the persons you need to have some prestige if you're gonna
Right.
get some people to help you.
Right.
It just can't be your uncle and your mom and your sister. You know?
But everything is based on community support.
Absolutely.
And if you can show that you're not just some guy that's isolated in his family and his community and just trying to get a job, and you are networking. That's why networking is very important.
Absolutely,
It's
brother.
very important
Vital.
inside
That's right.
the penitentiary
And
as
outside.
well as outside.
That's right. That's right. And that's the preparation. Preparing while you're in the penitentiary, going through those things, and make sure when you come out those networks that you said you would do, you would do.
Yeah, now I find myself, Ernest, you already know I'm building a whole broad-based new network now.
Yeah.
So to empower my job, the job that I do as an executive director, I need to be empowered. So part of my empowerment and being connected with the right people who can direct me, you know what I'm saying, to help and even become a resource. So I learned, you know, we learned that long ago in prison that you have to build a network.
Absolutely. And that's another thing too. I know a lot of the brothers in there. Oh, the brother Conrad,
Yeah.
dealing with the Public Safety Initiative Network.
You know he's out, right?
Of course, yes, of
And-
course.
And not only is he out, but he just got off parole.
Ain't that a blessing? You see that?
Just got off parole, man. I'm saying, and so he's really happy about where his life is going.
Excellent. And this is the thing. This is where we came into. I say we because all those people who supported me are part of the success story.
Yes, sir.
You know.
That's right.
And so I say we came to the understanding that if you're going to put your foot forward, then please step in the right direction, man. You know, please don't regress.
Okay,
You know.
we got 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Clock is winding down.
Okay.
Right.
Before we do that, can I
Yes.
do a station
Sure you can.
identification break?
Sure you can. You
That
better
way-
get that right, brother.
We're going to do a station identification break, and hopefully Jim is on point so that he can transition the next hour of our program. You're listening to Voices Beyond the Wall, New York Prison Talk radio show, coming to you live from the Vassar College radio station, 91.3 WV.